Hello and welcome to Merlins Brick News, episode 41 of the weekly news show on all things brick building, where we talk about set updates and announcements from all the major brands, MOCs of the week, and a few deals and reading material as well. Information is presented as always by setdb.org, the best source for set information on the internet. And this is where we are going to go. But first, a quick hint on a new feature. Did you know that when you now search, like for instance, you are searching for Lego Castle, not Leggy, but Lego, or let's look for Star Wars, you will see that you have a lot more potential hits, and if it's more than 10, you were actually not able to see them before, but now you have this More button, and if you click this, you will get to our search. This is more or less the same thing. It is blazingly fast, but basically you have all the results here. Like for instance, Lego Star Wars is 733 sets out of 13,253 that we have currently in the database. So if you're looking for an AAT, here you go. Lego has done a lot of AATs. Anyhow, this is the way to go. There's two ways to get there. One is you just start searching wherever you are on the site, and then you click this More button, or you go directly into the SetDB and click here on search. And of course, we have this both for minifigures, or Lego minifigures in this case, and from sets as well. Not for brick search at this point in time, but you can just directly go through SetDB bricks and pieces, and then you can also search through pieces. We are quite proud on how fast our search is. Anyhow, let's move on and let's get started with BlueBrixx. And here we have an announcement of what they call the Modern House, the 107643. At this point in time, as always with BlueBrixx, when it's announced, we don't know the price yet. The price will only be given when this thing actually goes on shelves. Typical BlueBrixx strategy, slightly different than Lego, and plus, as always, keep in mind, when they doing these kind of announcements, it takes usually up to 6 months until it actually reaches shelves. Very different from other brands like Kobe or Lego in that regard. Anyhow, the Modern House is going to have 703 pieces. We do know that's going to be 40 centimeters by 14.5, and it's 18 centimeters in height. Somebody asked me in comments if BlueBrixx is also shipping, for instance, to North America. I checked their site, and to me it looks like they do. However, I have no idea how this is on shipping cost. But long story short, so it does say EU because it's a EU shop, but I think they are shipping across the pond as well. It's a nice building. Let's come back to the house because it's entirely closed. So a little bit like Lego's Creator buildings, but for sure not like the typical playset by Lego, which is usually just, 4 or 5 studs in depths and quite open, which I still believe is quite a pity with many play series of Lego, like Friends or Harry Potter for that matter, that you never have a real building. So this is very different here. However, the building is quite, let's say, simplistic on the inside. I do believe it could be a great set for kids due to its very simple structure or nature, or could be a starting point for your own mock endeavors. With that, we're moving on to the Western train, the General, the 107674, an announcement of a train with 911 pieces. It's roughly 40 centimeters in length, 12 in height, and 7 in width. So this is an 8-stud tree. I think Lego, BlueBrixx, my apologies, has done a similar design some time ago in the 6-stud ballpark, so this thing is for sure bigger here, but still, I mean, the manage they did on this locomotive with everything with just 900 pieces in the 8-stud format, so that's quite good. I guess you should be able to motorize it as well. So designed by Niklas. Let's move on. With that, we are already done with BlueBrixx. I mean, of course, BlueBrixx, like many other companies, is this week more focused on Black Friday and stuff. We will come to that at a later point. But anyhow, we are moving on to CaDA, and here we have now the announcement, or actually it's already available from CaDA itself, but not yet in, let's say, broader retail availability, and they call it the V12 Hypercar in the static version. It's a 64003, and this is actually a refined version of a previous design, both done by Shu Wan Yi, and my apologies for my ignorance, and for sure my entirely wrong pronunciation. Anyhow, many of you remember, I guess, very fondly the 61053, the V12 Hypercar. Was a very cool car by by CaDA in the past, and my understanding is from them that this is basically just a refined version of that. It has less pieces, as you can see, 600 less pieces, but it's still a pretty cool set. Looks amazing, I do believe. I mean, obviously the blue color is not for everyone, but it looks definitely very cool. And as far as I can tell on these pictures, it's entirely without any stickers, which is amazing. It doesn't have prints either, which I think is a smart strategy. I'm actually advocating this for quite a while. I've always been saying, right, you know, I mean, generally, I think it's not wrong to throw in stickers in a set. If it's not necessary to put them on, that's totally fine, like an option. But in my point of view, they can just skip it. And I think such a detailed design, I mean, this thing has almost 4,000 pieces. It shouldn't need any stickers to bring across the idea. And I think so. Basically, CaDA is proving this point here very, very well. As you can see, I've already put it on my favorites list, on my wish list, because I'm definitely thinking about buying this one. Then we have what CaDA calls the Forest Train Station, the 66031. I'm not really sure what is the train station about this one, but anyhow, it has 737 pieces. CaDA has already published a video on this one, marketing material. So CaDA's listing this one for $50. Actually, I forgot to mention the V12 hypercar is 190, so 4.9 cents a piece. That's by CaDA directly. For sure, it will be cheaper in retail. So that's pretty cool. This one here is $50, 6.8 cents a piece, slightly more. And I do fear, but obviously only speculation at this point, I fear everything that you see here is not pad printed, but rather stickered. Maybe some UV prints in between, but yeah, usually CaDA doesn't go for mass pad print, especially not with such a small set. So my guess is these are all stickers, and I think this set will suffer if you don't stick them on. So yeah, bit concerned around this one, but next to that, it looks really beautiful. Also on the inside, I mean, it is a it's a tiny set, but it looks nice. Great idea. Again, here the plaque says Forest Station, the box says Train Station. So this box says Forest Train. I mean, this is typical CaDA. So you have here on the signature, you have Forest Station. The box says Forest Train, and the website, and this is actually what I'm using, is using Forest Train Station. So interesting, but anyhow, whatever it is, it looks nice, quite beautiful. But there may be an issue with stickers. With that, we're moving on to a lot of Jaki sets that have gotten available in China with Chinese retailers. In this case, mostly Baoyi, as far as I can tell. So let's go through them. So first of all, we have the Dragon 2 rocket. This is the 9103 from Jaki. It has 1,391 pieces. And you can get this bad boy in China for around $31. However, keep in mind that is always without shipping, and that shipping is obviously not cheap internationally. So keep that in mind. It has a lot of transport costs, but I think it's a pretty cool rocket. And yeah, I mean, for all of you space flight enthusiasts, I think this is a great set. Then there's also one, I think Jaki has done these before, that is basically open, if you will. It's a bit more, yeah, it's a different thing, right? The idea here is more not just to look beautiful from the outside, but basically give you the opportunity to look into the inside. This is the 8515 by Jaki. It has 1,349 pieces, and you can buy this in China for around $50, roughly in euros. And yeah, I think it's a pretty cool design. You can look into the inside, basically, yeah, enjoy the technology. Yeah, here we go, breaking dawn on a rocket. With that, we're moving on to the Glacier Adventure stereoscopic dinosaur painting. I'm not really sure how accurate this translation is, but I can't do any better. Anyhow, we have two dinosaurs in a picture frame. It's the 5302 and the 5301. Basically, they're just different colors. And yeah, I think they're really cool. They have a certain 3D vibe to it, which is pretty cool. Not really sure how they get attached to the wall. You see on this picture here these rings on top. However, I think there's also a picture with the frame just on the wall where you can't see these rings anymore. So not 1% sure how this is going to be. Anyhow, you pay roughly $20 plus shipping in China for these. And then let's move on to the Chinese restaurant Chengyu Lu. And again, I deeply apologize for my wrong pronunciation, the 2350. 2,000 pieces for this restaurant, $50 roughly, slightly above $50. Again, there are also discount codes, etc. You can find them on the respective setdb.org page, like this one here, which is a discount only on the, let's say, core price and not on the shipping, which is, again, could be quite high, so don't underestimate the pricing here. But anyhow, yeah, it's a nice building, I guess. I mean, from my point of view, it's just too much red for my personal taste. But if this is your cup of tea, and I guess it is authentic, then here you go, the Shengyu restaurant. With that, we're moving on to a couple of Christmas sets. This one actually says in the title, and again, I got this title from the retailer, that it has a rotating music box included. However, if I look at the construction here, I have no idea how this is going to be. So this may not be entirely accurate. Anyhow, it's called the Elf Treehouse. It has 1,055 pieces, and in general I think it has a really beautiful design. I really like this one, but yeah, I'm not really sure about the music box thing. Anyhow, you can buy this for around $30 again, plus shipping. And then we have the music box Christmas Fiesta. Again, these are all just, you know, folks trying to translate this into English. And I just, you know, I trust my retail partners here, but I have actually no idea if this is the perfect translation. But anyhow, it's a 1365, 543 pieces at $26. And yeah, I think again, a beautiful design, brick built figures. I really like this one. Interesting here is that the music box has a lot of buttons. That's my guess. That's what this means. I.e., you can, you know, you can still, I guess, silent the box, but still it's still rotating. You can make it a bit louder, a bit faster or slower, which I think is pretty cool, that you can give this thing some variety. The question, of course, always with such variety or a configuration is, will this thing save your last configuration, right? And you can just throw it on and it's doing whatever you want it to do, or do you have to configure it every time? Like, okay, go faster, go silent, etc., etc. I think the practicality here is, from my point of view, the interesting question. Anyhow, let's move on to a very cool set, I believe. The Nutcracker, the 8225. It has 900 pieces. It's around $22, translated in euros. And again, plus shipping. But the coolest thing about this, and first of all, this thing has a ton of interesting play features, as far as I can tell, right? They put this, I guess, plastic pelt on the sides, so that is supposed to be the hair of this figure, like many of these old nutcrackers at least used to be. I mean, I don't have one, but I remember from my childhood there were folks who had these, and they looked pretty much like this one here. So I think it's an interesting interpretation and brick built interpretation of this concept. Again, 900 pieces. With that, we're moving on to Funhole, and here we have the newest announcement of this set 9022. So this is the 22nd set, as you might guess that Funhole has done in their, basically, when did they start? I think beginning of last year, right? It's called the Lookout Campground. It has 1,426 pieces. As always, of course, with Funhole, it has also lighting included, couple of minifigures of the pretty cool and very authentic minifigure design of Funhole. I really like this one. The set overall is interesting, I do believe, as well. There's a little bit of water involved. There, you know, you have basically your trailer, you have and the tower itself. It's all, there are lights everywhere. However, what they have not done, which sometimes this company is doing, also with the Lego retrofit solutions under the Lighttailing / BlueBrixx brand, that they are also doing, that they are, and Funhole has done this as well, that they have used blue LEDs and throw them into the water, and green LEDs and, you know, throw them into the plants, which I think is a bit crazy, because plants, at least regular ones, and regular water doesn't, you know, it's not in light. There's no light in there usually. So at least I had usually some issues there, but I think this is not the case here. All these lights make a ton of sense. And they look pretty cool. I really like this design. It's really beautiful. Obviously, if the entire theme and the tower is your cup of tea, is something you need to figure out. But it looks pretty cool. As always, big fan of Funhole, what Funhole is doing. And this one is live. With that, we're moving on to the announcement of Lego, of the Ideas Orient Express. It's dark blue, so that's, I think, not the color that the original design entry had. Yes, the original design entry had a dark green coloring of the locomotive, but then the car was basically was in dark blue, which I guess is the authentic coloring of the original Orient Express. I'm actually not that deep in this one. But anyhow, Lego went. First of all, I think they organized a license. I think there's a company today that is running the Orient Express, and I think Lego got even a license from this company, and they made the entire train blue. It has 2,540 pieces, 8 minifigs. It's roughly a meter and 16 centimeters in length. And as far as I can tell, it is a 8-stud train, right? So it's rather big, but the way it looks right now, you should be able to get this around a regular corner on a regular, i.e. a regular, basically you can electrify this thing, I would guess, and get this with, I guess, acceptable effort into a true driving train, which is, for instance, different than the Harry Potter thing that they did, this Harry Potter Collector Edition, whatever it was called, set. So this looks much more usable on an actual track. And personally, I do believe it's really beautiful. I know some folks complain that the locomotive is a bit too small compared to the cars especially, but personally, I don't even think so. I mean, yes, slightly, but I think it's okay. It's a well-done job. I really like the overall design. Dark blue is a great color. Yes, dark green is nice as well, but having consistently this dark blue color is nice as well. The interior is really awesome. The question is, of course, what is the sticker versus pet print situation? Because, for instance, this artwork is clearly a sticker, as far as I can tell. So, yeah. I think that's to be figured out. Everything that you see on the outside, on the other hand, looks more like pet printed, which is really, really cool. All in all, I think a beautiful design. I definitely intend to build it. All right, that was that. Yeah, pricing we should mention. It's interesting. So in the Lego in the US and EU, it's around $300. In the UK, it's $260, and in Canada, it's 390 Canadian. That sounds more expensive than the US version, doesn't it? Not so deep into the conversion rate between these two currencies, but at least in the EU, we can buy it for around $300 or $300 US. That's roughly 12 cents a piece. That is not cheap. So it's quite an expensive set, especially compared to many others. And one we are going to talk about in a second. But first, we talk about Super Mario Expansion Dory's Sunken Shipwreck Adventure. Well, that's a long name, 71432. This thing is going to have 500 pieces. It will release January 1st, and it's going to cost you between 40 British pounds up to over $45 US to $60 Canadian. Basically, in US dollars, that's roughly 9 cents a piece. That's on the higher end price-wise, I would argue. However, I mean, you can see already in the EU, as always, our retailers go usually below the Lego price if they can. In this case, I think they intend to do. There's already a pre-order option for $34 at Brickmo. With that, we're moving on to Super Mario's Bowser's Muscle Car expansion set. So this thing I believe is really cool. It is a 71431. First of all, I really like the design. I mean, Bowser is always a cool character, and he has a cool car and a couple of, I hope, interesting printed pieces. He has a couple of bombs. I'm not really sure what he can do with this one. And you can throw even other characters in the car. That's my understanding. Like, for instance, Mario. So it's a nice car. There's a ton of stuff you can do with it, and Lego is just selling it for just $30, basically. That's 6.5 cents a piece. I guess there are a lot of small pieces in there, but nevertheless, it looks quite interesting price-wise. But I really like the design, most and foremost. However, I don't own the game, as I've said in the past, so I can't really check out how much sense this expansion makes. Actually, Lego is making a bazillion of these expansion sets. So I guess there is a large community for these. Otherwise, I guess Lego would have stopped making them long ago. And with that, we're moving on to Mork. And Mork is doing a Vikings house. At least we have an announcement over here in Europe. On this one, I haven't seen it with any retailer available at this point in time. But anyhow, this 33051, it's going to have 3,085 pieces. So that's quite a big moss, and yeah, it's like a mix out of a longship and a building, which technically I think never existed. So it's kind of a bit like fantastical, if you will. It's not really realistic Vikings vibe, more like a playset with a lot of freedom on the design, let's put it that way. But yeah, I think it looks okay, it looks nice. The interesting question, of course, will be usually Mork is Xingbao pieces, so I guess everything that you see here that looks printed is pad printed. Then there is also a light included, so actually quite interesting. So let's see how the pricing is going to be, and I think it should fit quite well with the Lego Viking stuff as well. With that, we're moving on to Pantasy, and here we now have by Pantasy itself a lot of availabilities. Actually, I've not updated the SetDB page, but I do know that these things are now getting available, I think today on Amazon. So maybe when you see this, you will already have different links here because it should be available on Amazon. So Pantasy usually has a strategy. They have their own store, which is linked here. This is actually what I use for the list price reference. It's technically not an MSRP, but that's just how I handle it. This is directly from their own shop in which is Shopify based, and it's in China, of course. They will send it from there. But Pantasy also has local Amazon stores in the Amazon marketplace, which means you will have delivery by Amazon in your local market. And I think they do this for the US, for Europe for sure. Canada, I'm not 1% clear on this one. But anyhow, they have a few of these Amazon stores. And yeah, here you go. This is, of course, very cool. And in their own store, they want to sell this one here, the Steampunk Series Clock Tower Park for the 8508 for $120 US. Like I said, it's for sure going to be cheaper, especially as we also have Black Friday around the corner, right? But so that's for sure not the cheapest way to buy it. But even for $120, it's 4.9 cents a piece, 7.2 cents per gram. So this is really awesome. And you might guess, how do you know how heavy this thing is? The reason is I've already built it, actually. I just finished it yesterday, and it's a beautiful building. It's not really, I guess, in traditional sense, steampunk, because, with the exception of these gears in front, there's not really as many steampunks element in there. I mean, the color scheme, of course, is like Victorian steampunk, if you will. But I mean, if you look at the car, and there's also no steam involved whatsoever, no pipes, no nothing. But it looks like really cool. It looks like a combination out of a little bit of steampunk, a little bit of, let's say, Big Ben architecture kind of vibe. London architecture, and this is actually, as you can see here, this is also a clock that to a certain degree even works, so there's a Technic mechanism in it. It's a pretty cool set. I was really excited about it and I had a lot of fun with it. The piece quality is amazing, and you have a ton of metallic gold in there, which is really, really cool, and something that Lego almost never does, maybe with the exception of the Infinity Gauntlet. Anyhow, let's move on. They also have a second set. I've just started building this one. I'm not finished yet. It's the Steampunk Series Railway Station, the 85007. Same story, more or less. This, I think, is a bit more steampunky, in quotes. And Pantasy is listing this one for $160, 5.9 cents a piece. I have not finished it yet, so I don't have a final conclusion. But yeah, I think it's really, really cool. Actually, these elements that you see here on the left and right, you can actually move these. The only drawback of that concept is you can basically open and close the entire station. But the drawback is that you always see these pure red axles, Technic axles here, if you open it up, which I don't like that much. But next to that, it's a really cool concept, beautiful design. But like I said, final conclusion to be drawn. And with that, we're moving on to one additional fighter from Reobrix. This time it's the F-18, the Hornet strike fighter, the 33022. We have seen this thing in with Chinese retailers for around, it has 1,387 pieces, and it's around here in this case $62. I mean, I don't know. They have done so many of these recently. It's unbelievable. It's like an entire... You can basically, I guess, fill up an entire room with these now, because they are all, I mean, 1,400 pieces doesn't sound that much, but these things are huge. So this thing is 53 by 41 centimeters in heights and width. And so it's it's really, it's a big boy. So you need a lot of space for this one. With that, we're moving on to current deals and what is going on around Black Friday. So in general, I post from time to time a couple of news and deals, discounts, etc. You know, news on this directly on the site. So if you go on BlueBrixx, you have here the news section. And two I want to talk about today. First of all, Lego has started to announce what they intend to do on Black Friday. And I think it's quite interesting, actually. So first of all, there's a difference between Europe and North America. That I can say for sure. I haven't looked into Asia, in the Asia region. But between Europe and North America, the difference is that in Europe, in a nutshell, they're basically doing what they did on Insiders Weekend, so last weekend. So you have a ton of sets where you get discounts. I will come to the Marvel Tower in a second. In the US and North America, and that includes Canada, it's different. Here, they have much less discounts. I think it's only 2 sets, Captain America Shield and NASA Apollo 11 Lunar Lander. For those two, you could still get the discount codes, similar to what happened on Insiders Weekend. But what they have instead is they have like multiple Insiders points, like 3 times and 4 times, mostly around the sets that were in this discount lineup. It's more or less the same sets. The only difference that in the US, now you get less discounts and instead a few more insider points. I mean, I haven't done the math, but I would almost 100% argue that this is that is a worse deal, that the previous deal was better. So if you compare this with UK, for instance, here in Europe, you can see that they have still all these codes. So I would argue that £45 discount on a Pac-Man is better than 3 times insiders points. Instead of, basically that should be roughly around 10%, right? 10% discount. I would argue that £45 is better than 10%. But I mean, it's just a different concept, and I'm not sure why they're doing it like this. But this is the idea. But the sets we're talking about are more or less the same now. Anyhow, the much more interesting thing, of course, is the Avengers Tower. And here, that was, to me personally, that was news that Lego has now announced that the 2 gift with purchases from the Insiders Weekend are still available during Black Friday. That means if you buy the Avengers Tower, you're not only getting the Marvel Taxi, but also Magistus Magic Workshop and the Winter Market Store. My understanding is you should get all 3 of them. And in fact, if you go on the site, you can see this. Oh my God, the Lego site is really not the fastest. You see here, right? The Avengers Tower. You get the Marvel Taxi, and you get the Winter Market Stall and Magistus Magical Workshop. You won't get these 2 polybags because these are for Cyber Monday, for the 27th, and then you won't get the other 2 gift with purchases. So, however, so basically in a nutshell, if you buy on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you get the Marvel Taxi and Winter Market Store and Magical Workshop. If you buy on Monday, you still get the taxi if they still have it. I mean, that's of course also a big question. And these 2 polybags. So my point of view, if you intend to buy the tower, then I would guess buying directly Black Friday is the best option, and better be quick about it because who knows how fast the gift with purchase will run out. With that, we are moving on to some reading material. We have published a review on a Mold King 8-stud car called the 488 GTB. Obviously, that is a Ferrari. I've actually written this piece. Technically, we intend to publish now more of these pieces. Actually, we have started doing so. If you can see, for whatever reason, I forgot the other pieces. There's also this 918 RSR, the Teddy Bear Seaside Convenience Store review, and the Australia postcard. I will put links to all of these down below in the description, or just go on merlinsbricks.com/reviews. So actually these are reviews that we have already published on the German side. A couple of, some of them are up to date, some of them are a bit older. And what we're now trying to do is basically start translating all of them, which is quite some effort, as you might guess, even with the support of software. So yeah, we're still working on this. But if you're interested, I guess we have a couple of reviews here on this side that you won't find on that many other pages. But as always, if you look, for instance, on the Australian postcard, so for instance, Brick Architecture's Brick Block have taken a look at these as well. As always, we are not just posting our own reviews, but of course also the ones of other outlets. So if you just go to the ZDB page of the respective set, as always, you will find the entire collection of reviews, both on YouTube and written form, that are out there. What we are not linking at this point in time, because just technically not that easy, is like stuff like YouTube Shorts or TikTok reviews. But everything that is written or long form content on YouTube, you will find here, at least from the most well-known outlets. Actually, if something is missing here, a website, for instance, just let me know. Put in the comment section and I will take a look at it if that is an outlet that we may add to this site. Anyhow, let's move on. Bricklink Designer Program Series 3 is finished, or the 3 finalists or the 5 finalists are defined by the team, by the Bricklink team. And crowdfunding is going to start on this one in October 2024. I mean, yeah, it's getting complicated, right? We have all these series, they're running in parallel to a certain degree. So for these 5 bad boys, you have to wait until October for them to be able to participate in the crowdfunding, but the design's already selected. So we have Harbor Master's Office, The Art of Chocolate, Forest Stronghold, Camping Adventure, and Lost City. Personally, I'm pretty sure I will invest in the Camping Adventure because it looks really amazing. Just my cup of tea. But I mean, you have everything you want, right? You have a nice fortress again, which maybe we had one in the very first round of the Bricklink Designer Program, which I think is beloved by many. So here you have now, in addition to that, if you will, Harbor Master's Office, of course, goes very well with the previous Lego idea set, right? But I'm also a big fan of Lost City, which I think is a really kind of magical design, if you will. Looks really cool. Art of Chocolate, not entirely my cup of tea, but it's a very large, very detailed building. You can open up on the back. Very interesting design for sure. So here you go. Bricklink Designer Program Season 3. Pretty cool stuff in there. With that, we're moving on to MOCs of the week. And here I have only 5 this week, simply because of lack of time this week. I have to be a bit more quick about it and then compared to usual. Anyhow, let's move on. And we have here the first MOC is Imperial Brick by Arcelos, I guess. It has 1,988 pieces, and actually this one was in the, or maybe is still in the MOC pop-up store from Bricklink, and was featured in the Bricklink Designer Program Series 1 and 2. So here it is actually, here is now opened up to the broader audience. I guess it was in the pop-up store only from September to November, so I guess that's the reason why this designer is now putting it also on Rebrickable. So you can buy the instructions for $8. It has also been slightly improved, is my understanding. A few more pieces, a few more improvements. It's still a beautiful design, and personally I prefer this way compared to the MOC pop-up store, because, you know, if you already have the pieces, etc., etc., it's a bit easier, right? Just buy it on Rebrickable and then do your own thing to get the pieces together. Anyhow, with that, we're moving on to another MOC, which is a really cool idea. So this is 3 times the old Disney Castle by Lego. So 7104. Technically, it's an alternate build. Basically, if you happen to have in your basement 3 times the old castle, you can buy these gigantic behemoths with 10,900 pieces. Looks really cool, looks much more authentic, much more like it is actually in the park, or used to be, because obviously this is the old set that is not reflecting from the color scheme the current castle anymore. But anyhow, basically what the designer is saying here, hey, if you guys like this, then I may also do the same thing for the new set. One way or another, this thing is going to be very expensive to buy, right? If you have to buy 3 Disney castles, and especially the old one, I'm pretty sure this thing is more expensive nowadays than it used to be back in the day. So I'm pretty sure, I mean, if you don't already have 3 of these, this can get really expensive. But if you're a big Disney fan, I guess this is the way to go. And it's still relatively easy compared to building an entire free MOC, right? You just need to organize, just in quotes, need to organize 3 times the set and you're good to go. $10 for the instruction construction is not too shabby for 11,000 pieces almost. With that, we're moving on to a Viking ship by Jaki. Actually, what I'm showing here to you right here is just the display stand, but of course the ship itself is in this designer's portfolio as well. And it's a really cool design because for me, this really looks like a longship or a Viking ship. It's minifigure scale, and which is not, too often. I mean, of course, Lego and other companies have done ships, and there are many MOCs where you can throw in minifigures, but they're never really up to scale. This thing here is much closer, I think, to an authentic version of such a ship. You have a brick sail, or the option at least of a brick sail, which I really like. Looks really cool. That's exactly what I would go for, but I know, of course, a lot of folks prefer fabrics. And yeah, because it's minifigure scale, you can throw in your minifigures, your shields. It's really beautiful. And especially now with all the options around minifigures, thanks to the Viking idea set, I think there's definitely an option now, right? We have the minifigure from the collector's edition, from the minifigure series. I think it was 16, 17, I'm not really sure. Can't really recall, but there was a very cool Viking. Then we have the Viking ship set, and we have now the idea set. So a lot of option to get the minifigures, get some shields, and I think have a really cool Viking design here. Great design by Jaki. With that, we're moving on to Lennox Castle by Brick Monster. This bad boy is going to have 3,880 pieces. $15 for the instruction. Unfortunately, only one picture. Would have loved to have more. But yeah, I think it's a cool kind of castle Lego-like optic. Design language, but still, of course, very detailed and definitely has its own language as well. So really an interesting set for sure. Maybe a bit more exotic than compared to, for instance, Lego's Lion Knight's castle, a bit more fantastical. But I think, yeah, I really like it. Nice design by Brick Monster. And then last but not least, the Greenwood Watch by Mbro. Not sure if I pronounce this correctly. €15 for this instruction. And the interesting thing here is this is an alternate build, I think, almost. And the idea is that you throw together the medieval blacksmith, the medieval castle, and the Viking ship by Lego, and even throw in the gift with purchase forest hideout kit, which I think is the most problematic to get. The other three you can still buy. Viking ship is even relatively cheap. Medieval castle has been Lego exclusive, I think, since the beginning. Never really, there were never very good deals on this one. And the medieval blacksmith, of course, I mean, depending again where you lived, is even discounted right now by Lego, or has been discounted during the Insiders Weekend, or will be discounted again during Black Friday. So I guess there's a lot of option to get this stuff together. And again, interesting for people who want to build a MOC like this, right? With 3,482 pieces, but maybe don't want to get all the pieces together on their own. So if you have these sets lying around, or maybe just one is missing, and I guess if you're missing the forest hideout, I guess there is an option for replacement pieces. I guess it's mostly these black pieces here down below. I guess you can build, get an alternative done. But I guess the forest hideout is the most complicated to get your hands on if you don't have it already. But very cool idea. I mean, the only drawback of these alternate builds where you throw together multiple sets is, of course, I mean, if you decide you want to go back to the original sets, then of course you have a lot of sorting this out ahead of you. But all in all, I think a very cool idea. With that, I hope you liked the show. For those who watch this on YouTube, please leave a like or comment, or wherever you listen or see this, like, comment, subscribe, whatever it is called on your respective platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you listen to this show. With that, thanks for listening. See you next week.